Cheers. It's 2:30 in the morning. Time for a very large cup of tea. The reading of the Dietrich Bonhoeffer. Well, it's an excerpt from a letter, actually. Seemed to go down quite well with some folks. Some folks. I've started saying folks for some reason. I got into this other habit of, and I've stopped it now. Actually, I don't know why, because I went through a habit going to supermarkets, and then I'd call people dear, and some people might not like that or whatever, but it wasn't with any sort of side or sort of intent to belittle or make people feel something that they don't want to feel. But I don't know. I thought I'd become a kind of guy. It was a few years ago, but probably late 40s, 50 odd or whatever, but 10 years ago, I'm 60 now, 60 years old. And I thought I've become the kind of person that calls people dear. I've stopped all that. I don't know when it stopped. I didn't intend to start talking about that at the beginning of this. I wanted to talk about, well, I didn't know what I wanted to talk about other than really a comment that I just left on a channel which looks at a lot of crime cases. It's called Break the Ice. I've watched quite a bit of the gentleman's content. I think his name is Luke, and I've watched quite a lot of his videos in the past, a while back now, about the Nicola Bulley case. I'm never quite happy saying the word case anymore for some reason. I don't know, but I don't know what else. The story that we were told, the official story, and then how it was apparently settled formally through the coroner, and the issue about some very interesting interviews that Luke, and I hope I have his name right, the gentleman who does Break the Ice channel, he did interviews with Peter Falding, who was the diver that seemed to then, I think, was used possibly by the police as a kind of somebody to blame unfairly. But that it's been a while since I've thought about that. I instinctively, and that's mainly what I go by initially with things in life now, or pretty much all the time. I don't think I think there's something wrong with that official story. And you don't have to know, do you? You don't have to know the answer or what exactly did happen in order to justify why you don't feel comfortable with an official story. I don't have to know exactly what happened on 9/11, who was behind it, how it was planned, in order to not feel satisfied or happy or believe the official story, which I don't at all. Anyway, I left a comment because Break the Ice channel, Luke, did a video talking about the Netflix, because obviously that has created a lot of reaction videos, hasn't it? And I've watched quite a lot of them, I thought Chris on Lucy Letby and NASA did a great job, and I was watching, and Jenny was really interesting, great job as well with all the aspects of it there. And Mervyn, I watched his one as well, and I've watched other people's ones. And as soon as I start listing, I think I'm going to forget people. So I've watched a lot, and there's some really interesting points that Mervyn made about, because I haven't seen it and I won't see it. I'm not making a thing of not seeing it. I'm just not going to see it, and I don't have Netflix anyway. The thing that really stood out to me about Mervyn's one is him saying that you're being put almost like subjectively, as though you're part of the raid, essentially, on the home of Lucy Letby, or on her parents' home, as though you're part of it. And he analogized it. Is that a word, analogized? He said it was analogous to, or like, something like that. I don't know why I use these words, but I like words anyway. I just like them anyway. It's not trying to punt around with them, but I just like it. Where was I? More tea, I think. It's analogous to sort of a domestic violence incident, that kind of energy. That's what I took from what Mervyn was saying there. I've gone off the thing about the comment. So I've left a comment, because I left a comment on Break the Ice channel, which is like quote unquote true crime channel, I suppose. I don't want to label anything because Luke might not see it that way, or what it is just it's talking about, crime seemed to be fundamental to it, and I was very interested in how he looked at the depth he went into with regard to Nicola Bulley case. And so I left a short comment, one of my usual ones lately, which is, Lucy Letby, well, it's been for a long time. Lucy Letby will be exonerated. Lucy Letby's innocent, she'll be exonerated. Hashtag. I can't not do the hashtags. I don't know why. I just feel I think I got so used to it. I mean, they kind of work on YouTube, but when I used to be on Twitter, I was hashtagging it all over the shop about this, but and other things in the past. But hashtagging like a crazy person, So I left that short thing like that, and then there was a short response from the channel owner, Luke, who says, well, I'm interested to know what makes you feel so certain. And at first I wasn't going to reply, not out of rudeness, but I feel a kind of exhaustion about, and also not only an exhaustion, but a quandary about how to answer it now. It's almost as though after all this time, I find it very hard to think of a short answer, because it feels to me like shortchanging what the reality is, because the reality isn't a short answer. It's a story. It's, well, not a fictional story, but it's a true story of novel length at the very least, and it's getting longer every day. It's an epic. And yes, sure, you can truncate it, and you can create bullet points, and I think it's a real skill, and it's a real discipline to do it, and I could make myself do it, but I don't. It's almost like I don't want to on a spiritual level somehow, because it's something else. But I did try to answer it, and I said there's a short answer. So I did kind of have a go at the short answer, and it was just a 3-point thing, which is there's absolutely no evidence of intentional harm by anybody. The second point of 3 is that there's overwhelming evidence of other causes for the deaths and crashes that formed the indictment. And the third part, and this is where you begin to think, well, should this have been the third part, or should something else come in? But I wanted to say three things, because I'm into the number 3. And the third part was the absolute demolishing of the reports, the evidence given, the methods of, and I think largely the character of the prosecution's star witness, the fake, and the same for a demolishing of the fake police investigation, and an analysis over these 2.5 years plus now of the character, the motivations, the dynamics, the human dynamics that formed within that gang of consultants, a name they gave themselves, Well, at least some of them did. A self-referential term. The gang. And how that operated within the hospital as a whole, the dynamics between them and the management, etc. So they're basically the three sections. I'd see everything begins to fall apart for me because they're not discrete. Everything is. It's like looking at a complex novel and just say, well, I'll just take this strand out and just say this is a discrete strand, and nothing is. Everything is conditional. Everything is building up over time, through time. And then I could have left it there with a comment, and then I started on a longer comment. I continued it. And I said, well, this is the longer answer. And then I went through a pretty comprehensive overview of sources, names of people, where to get sources from this, and that went on quite a long time in a comment. I don't usually leave long comments, almost never. I don't think I do, and no, I don't. And I might have missed some people out, and that's always a kind of anxiety to me. But I wanted initially starting that process off to go to foundational things for me, and the reason they're foundational because again it goes back to time. It's about when they happened over this period of time. So just to say, I'm not going to redo the comment here in the video, obviously, but obviously what Sarita Adams was doing and the people around her in initially it was called Rex v Lucy Letby, starting off as a Facebook group and then becoming Science on Trial. But I didn't actually mention that. I should have done. Anyway, I'm not going to get myself bogged down here, but the Substack, the work on Substack by Scott McLachlan, the 21, 22, 23 Substacks that he was doing regularly in the autumn and winter 23 into 24. And then of course you've got, and then I'm not going to list them all, but one of the other main sources is obviously the podcast of Dr. McConville, both the ones he did with Peter Elston and the ones he did alone, and obviously Richard Gill, Professor Richard Gill, and then everything that's come since that, everyone and everything that's come since that, and I just listed, just as a kind of overview, and the conclusion to the comment, and this is, I think this is why I was resistant to even initially answering it, because I thought, what do you say now? The conclusion is that if you want to understand what this is about, what's happened here, if you want to gain some kind of sense of, not mastery over it, but a sense that you've internalized it, it's gone through your system, through your psyche, through your mind, through your heart, and in your heart, it's going to take a lot of time, and it can't be done. I mean, you could try it with some bullet points, and it might have some effect, and that's, but that begs the question: are we just trying to have effect? The reality is, for people to get it, they're going to have to put a lot of time and energy into it, and they've got to go through the process of it over time, I think. Maybe other people think differently about that and say, well, it's okay, it's been consolidated over time, and here's a concentrated version of the things that matter. But I don't look at it that way. I see it as a process. It's a history. That's the word I was thinking when I was making my tea. It is a history. And attendant to that history, there is I'm not going to be able to say this word now, I can't say it. Historiography? I should look it up. Historiography. How do you say it? Historiography. I should have practiced this. But I want to get this word because Historiography. I knew it, but I'm getting glitches with things, Historiography of it. Now I don't. So there is that there is writing, but there's also the visual and speaking, obviously, and that all comes into the historiography of it, and that's about something happening over time, rather than its end point or a point where it gets concentrated into some kind of report you can make about it. It's a process of feeling, it's a process of intuiting, it's a process of going through your intellectual gubbins up there, and it takes time. And so I don't know whether the gentleman on that channel would find that comment irritating or just too much. And I'm saying it, I'm not writing this at length. It's like as an overwhelm or kind of some kind of grandstanding thing. It's not that. It's just, this is, for me, this is my view of it. That's the reality of what you need to do. Now, do you need to do all of it? Well, I don't know. It's up to you. But once you start looking into it, what's going to get you there is this kind of idea that it soaks into you, and all the voices and all the input of it and all the journey of this unfolding, because it's also about a story back in time, but it's also unfolding into the future as new things are coming out. But conversely, they're about things that happened in the past. So there's a lot of strange things going on with time here as well. So yeah, so I did that anyway, and why am I even talking about that? I think it's to do with what is this. It made me think. It made me face, or not that I haven't faced it. I know it. I mean, we know it. I think, and I get that from the vast majority of the comments, is that people are. They're not reading a list of something. They're living this in one degree or another. Not necessarily 24 hours a day, obviously, but it's in their system, like in the blood, for all sorts of reasons, in a deep way, and it just is. It just is, and that's what's keeping people there, and the status quo at the moment is what's keeping people there, because it needs to be changed. It has to be altered. It has to, the injustice has to be undone. And there's something really almost like universal and I shouldn't try and say words I can't pronounce. Paradigmatic. It's almost like a paradigm situation here in which we don't want to be in a world where this is possible, where institutions are capable of this, where there's nothing to stop something as monstrously unjust as this. We don't want to be in that world, because we know who the victim of it, who it is, and by extension there are other victims of being lied to and being misdirected and being weaponized by institutions. I hit a wall the other day, a couple of days ago, was it, with those 2 videos which I've deleted, and I've deleted them for other reasons as well, because I hit a wall with being flooded with certain types of emotions and feelings, and it led to me, I've got to be careful how I'm going to put this, but it led me to, it didn't make me, it's my responsibility, but it led me to a mistake, what I consider to be a mistake, both in relation to what we've been doing, but also in relation to my own safety, I suppose, in terms of the, safety. And but I don't think I worry about stuff, and I don't think anything. I don't think there are going to be any ramifications, but I've been kind of doing preparatory research just in case there are, because we're not in Kansas anymore. Anything can happen. We know that. This is the very meat and potatoes of this horror story, is that anything can happen. And while I acknowledge I made a misstep, a serious misstep, which I won't say what it is, but because I'm hoping nothing comes of it. But I did apologize for it, and I do not believe I broke any law. ChatGPT backs me up on that. Good old ChatGPT. But I'm sure I didn't. But it's I went to that level because of this kind of almost, and I allowed it to happen. And maybe it's a kind of, I don't think it's indulgence, but it's just kind of a mixture of like being emotionally flooded in some way, and you want to do something, you want to do something, you want to put this right, and we are all doing something, all of us, we are doing it. And I think I've always wanted to believe that the moral power of our good intention, just by knowing this, feeling this, talking about it, thinking about it, being in it, being engaged with it, reverberates out. Even if you're just silent, it goes out there into the stuff of the world, and somehow, and it's having an effect, a cumulative effect, as well as more tangible things that people do or find out or report on. I think there's something about this that collectively we are congruent with and connected to natural law, as though natural law as an energy is flowing through us and won't let us go, in a sense, until this is put right. And ideally everything should be put right, but how can you take on everything? How can you take on the world? So we've got to, and hopefully there's other people to take on other things, isn't there? It's not and I really believe in this quality of intentionality, and I think it is a thing, whatever this thing is. It's non-material, but it's real. I think it is real. I believe it's real. But anyway, I might leave it there. That Dietrich Bonhoeffer thing about stupidity, I love that piece of writing. I had thought to think about it or use it as a lens through which to look at this monstrous injustice that we've been talking about, that we are talking about for years now. But I don't know. Maybe I don't need to do it, but I certainly don't feel it's a comfortable fit with all the personages, all the individuals concerned, in terms of them all being, as Dietrich Bonhoeffer puts it, that they need to be externally liberated in order to free them from their what he might also see as their stupidity, which is which then requires an internal liberation, because there are, and he also mentions in it, I'm not going to do it, I'm not going to go over it, because I think let it stand on its own, and people can, if people listen to it and they get something from it and they can relate it to what we've been talking about, then so much the better. But there are certain personages in this cast of characters who are acting independently, and they're acting for reasons of personal gain. And so it's about their investment in their personal gain. And then the flip side of that is about what can be taken away from them when it is revealed to the world how abysmally they have behaved, how immorally they have behaved. And so they have to, in their own eyes, prop up the falsity that they have brought into the world in order to protect themselves as they see it, protect their life, protect their name. But they know it's a losing battle. And Benita Boni said something similar in a comment about that, related to that idea of like self-protection, and self-interest. But I very much think that it's not a simple case of people being gripped by some external force, like a rising power of tyranny, and then they give up their independence of thought, because there are many, many independent actors here with a lot of self-interest in it, whether it's based on their career advancement or some sense of empty glory that they've achieved what they've achieved, which is utter horror and the opposite of justice. I'm going to leave it there. Thank you for listening if you have. I can't believe it's Friday. Well, it's Saturday already. 9 minutes to 3. And have a good weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.